The next morning, I wake to find Dante gone. Not just out of bed, we'd fallen asleep in his office after reviewing security footage until 3 in the morning, but gone from the house entirely. Rosa delivers this news with coffee, and an expression that suggests she knows more than she's saying. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Where did he go? I ask, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. Business that required his personal attention. Rosa's diplomatic non-answer confirms my suspicions. He said he'll return by evening and that you should rest today after everything that happened. Rest. As if I can simply turn off the anxiety coursing through my system, the questions multiplying faster than I can process them. Dante is hunting Antonio Giordano, the man who sent mercenaries to kill us both. And he's doing it without me, protecting me by excluding me, making decisions about our shared danger without my input. The realization triggers frustration that's been building since I arrived at this mansion. I'm grateful for the protection. Genuinely care about Dante in ways that terrify me. But I'm tired of being treated like something fragile that needs to be kept safe, rather than a partner capable of participating in my own defense. I spend the day reviewing my nursing textbooks, trying to maintain some connection to the life I'm supposed to return to eventually. But concentration proves impossible when every sound might be Dante returning, when every phone call Rosa takes might be news about whether he's alive or captured or worse. By 6 in the evening, my nerves are frayed enough that I'm pacing the library like a caged animal. By 7, I'm imagining every worst-case scenario my mind can construct. By 8, I'm seriously considering calling the police, federal authorities, anyone who might be able to help find him. That's when the front door opens. Dante walks in, looking exhausted but uninjured, followed by Vincent and 2 other men I don't recognize. He sees me standing in the library doorway, and something in his expression shifts, surprise mixed with what might be relief. "You're still up," he says, handing his jacket to Rosa. "You left without telling me where you were going." The accusation emerges sharper than I intend. "I've been worried sick all day, imagining you dead in a ditch somewhere because you decided to hunt a vengeful criminal without backup." His eyebrows rise fractionally. "I had backup. Vincent and, you know what I mean." I cross my arms, holding my ground despite wanting to throw myself at him, and confirm he's actually alive and whole. "You shut me out. Made decisions about our situation without including me. Treated me like I'm something to be protected rather than someone capable of helping." Dante exchanges glances with Vincent, who makes a strategic retreat toward the kitchen. When we're alone, Dante moves closer, but I hold up a hand to stop him. "No, you don't get to touch me and make me forget I'm angry. Not this time." "Fair enough." He settles onto the sofa, gestures for me to sit across from him. "You're right. I should have told you where I was going. But Sofia, what I did today involved crossing lines that I didn't want you anywhere near. Legal lines, moral lines, the kind of choices that change who you are fundamentally. What did you do?" He meets my eyes steadily. "I found Antonio Giordano. He was hiding in a federal safe house in New Jersey, living under witness protection after testifying against my father's organization 5 years ago. I confirmed he ordered the hit on me as revenge for territory losses he blames on my family." My stomach clenches. And I made arrangements to ensure he can never threaten you again." The careful phrasing tells me everything I need to know about what those arrangements involved. He won't be testifying against anyone else, won't be ordering hits from federal protection, won't exist as a problem anymore. The clinical description of what sounds like murder should horrify me. Instead, I feel a complicated mix of relief and guilt. Relief that the threat is eliminated, guilt that I feel relieved about someone's death. "You killed him," I say quietly. "I did what was necessary to protect you. No apology, just acknowledgement. And I'd make the same choice again, Sofia. Every single time." "That's not the point." I stand, needing movement to process the emotions churning through me. "The point is you decided to do this without consulting me. You took my agency away by excluding me from decisions that affect my life as much as yours. Because I didn't want you complicit in what? Murder? Violence? The reality of your world?" My voice rises despite efforts to control it. "Dante, I've been complicit since the moment I whispered that warning at Valentino's. I treated your wounded men after the attack. I'm living in your house under your protection. You don't get to suddenly decide which parts of this life I'm allowed to see." He stands too, and I can see the war playing out behind his eyes. The desire to protect me warring with understanding that I'm right. You're asking me to involve you in the violence, to let you witness what I'm capable of when I eliminate threats. I'm asking you to treat me like a partner instead of a possession. I move closer, needing him to understand. I know what you are, Dante. I've known since the day we met, even if I didn't want to admit it. You're dangerous, violent when necessary, capable of things that would terrify most people. But you're also gentle with people you care about, protective of those weaker than you, and trying to build something better than what your father left behind. You see me more clearly than I see myself sometimes. Then let me actually see you. All of you, not just the parts you think I can handle. He closes the distance between us, hands framing my face with devastating tenderness. What if showing you all of me makes you leave? What if you see too much darkness and decide you can't stay? The vulnerability in his voice cracks my anger like an egg. This powerful, dangerous man is afraid I'll abandon him if I witness the full reality of what he does. And maybe I would have, 2 weeks ago. But now, after midnight conversations and library kisses and watching him care for wounded men, I know something he hasn't realized yet. I'm not leaving, I whisper. Not because I'm trapped or because I have nowhere else to go, but because despite everything logical screaming that I should run, I choose to stay, with you. In this complicated, dangerous, impossible situation, his kiss tastes like relief and desperation and promise. When we finally break apart, his forehead rests against mine, both of us breathing hard. I'm not good at this, he admits quietly. Relationships, partnership, letting people close enough to matter. My father taught me that attachment is weakness, that caring about anyone gives enemies leverage to destroy you. Your father was wrong. I pull back enough to meet his eyes. Attachment isn't weakness, it's what makes us human. What makes all of this, I gesture at the mansion, the security, the empire he's built, mean anything. I want to believe that, then try. Start by including me in decisions instead of making them for me. He nods slowly, and I can see him recalibrating, adjusting his understanding of what our relationship can be. Okay, no more excluding you for your own protection. But Sofia, that means you'll witness things that might change how you see me. I'll risk it. The next 3 days unfold differently. Dante includes me in strategy sessions about securing his territory, identifying potential threats, managing the legitimate businesses that fund his operations. I learn that he owns restaurants, construction companies, import-export businesses, a web of interconnected enterprises that operate both legally and otherwise. More importantly, I learn about the people who depend on him, families whose breadwinners work in his companies, neighborhoods where his presence prevents worse criminals from taking over. The complicated reality that organized crime can sometimes provide stability in places where legitimate systems have failed. It's not the black and white morality I was raised with. It's messy, complex, full of ethical gray areas that don't resolve neatly, but it's real, and Dante navigates it with more thoughtfulness than I expected. On the 4th day, Vincent delivers news that changes everything. We have a problem, he says, his expression grim as he enters Dante's office, where we're reviewing quarterly reports from the restaurants. Ricardo Castellano's family is demanding a meeting. They claim rights to Antonio Giordano's territory since he was operating under their umbrella when you eliminated him. Dante's jaw tightens. Giordano was in federal protection. He forfeited territorial rights when he testified against my father. They're arguing that your father's death 5 years ago invalidated any previous agreements, that the territory should revert to them as the senior family in the region. Vincent glances at me, clearly uncomfortable discussing this with a civilian present. They want to negotiate at neutral ground. Tomorrow night. It's a trap, I say immediately, my psychological training recognizing the patterns. They don't want to negotiate. They want revenge for you killing someone under their protection, regardless of the circumstances. Dante looks at me with surprise. What makes you say that? The timing. They're demanding a meeting immediately, not allowing you time to prepare properly. The location choice neutral ground sounds fair, but it prevents you from having home advantage. And the framing claiming territorial rights instead of directly addressing Giordano's death. They're creating a business justification for what's really about personal revenge. Vincent's expression shifts from discomfort to respect. She's right. Everything about this screams setup. Then we don't go, Dante says simply. If you refuse, They'll see it as weakness. They'll start making moves against your territory, your businesses, the people under your protection. Vincent shakes his head. You have to go. The question is how we minimize the risk. I watch Dante process the impossible choice. Attend the meeting and walk into potential ambush, or refuse and invite territorial war that would endanger everyone in his organization. Neither option is good. What if we turn the trap around? I hear myself saying. Use their expectations against them. Both men turn to look at me. Explain, Dante says. They're expecting you to come with heavy security, prepared for violence. They'll plan accordingly, overwhelming force, strategic, positioning, contingencies for armed confrontation. I move to the desk, sketching out rough diagrams on a notepad. What if instead, you come with minimal visible security but extensive hidden support? Make them think you're vulnerable when you're actually more protected than they realize. That's essentially what we did at Valentino's, Vincent points out. Didn't prevent the assassination attempt. No, but it prevented it from succeeding. I look at Dante. The difference this time is we know it's a trap. We plan for it. And we use their overconfidence to gather intelligence about their operations. Dante studies me for a long moment, and I see the exact moment he makes his decision. Okay, we do it your way. But Sofia, you stay here where it's safe. Absolutely not. I cross my arms. You just agreed to include me in decisions, remember? Besides, I have psychological training that could be useful for reading their behavior during the meeting. It's too dangerous, which is why I'll stay in a secure location with remote surveillance. I can observe without being exposed to direct danger. I hold his gaze. Partnership, Dante. Not protection at the cost of participation. He looks at Vincent, who shrugs. She has a point. And having someone analyzing their behavior in real time could give us an advantage. Fine. Dante's surrender comes with obvious reluctance. But you follow Vincent's security protocols exactly. No deviations, no improvising, no heroics. Agreed. The meeting location is a restaurant in Little Italy called Carmelo's. Supposedly neutral ground, owned by a family with no allegiances to either side. In reality, I learn from Vincent's briefing, the owner has vague connections to the Castellano family that make true neutrality questionable. I watch from a van parked 2 blocks away, monitoring video feeds from cameras Vincent's team planted inside the restaurant earlier that day. The surveillance equipment is sophisticated enough to pick up audio and facial expressions with crystal clarity. Dante enters Carmelo's at exactly 9 o'clock, accompanied only by Vincent. They're both armed. I can see the telltale bulges beneath their jackets, but they make no obvious display of force. The Castellano family is already there. 5 men in expensive suits, seated at a large table in the back. The eldest, who must be Riccardo Castellano himself, stands to greet Dante. He's maybe 60, silver-haired, carrying himself with the authority of someone who's commanded respect for decades. But I notice the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes constantly track movement around the restaurant. Dante Salvatore. Riccardo's voice comes through clearly on the audio feed. Thank you for agreeing to meet. You didn't leave me much choice. Dante's response is polite but cool. You called this meeting, Riccardo. What do you want? Justice for Antonio Giordano. Respect for territorial agreements. Recognition that your family's actions have consequences. I watch Dante's micro-expressions carefully. His jaw tightens fractionally, but his overall demeanor remains controlled. Giordano forfeited any protection when he entered federal witness protection and testified against my father. He then violated the most basic rule of our world by ordering a hit from inside protection. I eliminated a threat who refused to honor the boundaries that keep our operations functional. You eliminated someone under our family's umbrella, one of Riccardo's men interjects. That requires restitution. What kind of restitution? Vincent asks, his tone suggesting he already knows the answer won't be reasonable. Riccardo leans back in his chair, and I notice his hand moving beneath the table. A signal. The territory Giordano controlled when he entered protection, the import operations through Newark. And a formal apology acknowledging that the Salvatore family overstepped. The demands are designed to be refused, territory and operations worth millions annually, plus public humiliation that would weaken Dante's standing with other families. This isn't negotiation, it's provocation. Unacceptable, Dante says flatly. Giordano controlled nothing. He was in federal custody. His operations dissolved years ago. You're inventing claims to justify aggression you'd already planned. Then we have a problem. Ricardo's hand emerges from beneath the table holding a phone. He types something quickly, and I see him glance toward the kitchen. Dante, I say urgently, into the comm system connecting me to Vincent's earpiece. Kitchen door. Ricardo just signaled someone, multiple heat signatures moving in that direction. Through the cameras, I watch Vincent tense and whisper something to Dante. Both men shift their positioning subtly, creating angles that would allow them to respond to threats from multiple directions. What happens next unfolds with terrifying speed. 6 men emerge from the kitchen, weapons drawn, moving to surround Dante's table. But before they can complete their positioning, the front windows shatter as Vincent's backup team, hidden in vehicles outside, open fire with precision that speaks to extensive training. The restaurant erupts into chaos. Ricardo and his men dive for cover. Dante draws his weapon and fires twice, dropping the nearest attacker before rolling behind an overturned table. Vincent moves in perfect synchronization, providing covering fire while advancing toward the kitchen. I watch it all unfold through multiple camera angles, my heart hammering against my ribs. This is the reality of Dante's world, stripped of pretense and glamour. Raw violence, life or death decisions made in split seconds, survival dependent on training and ruthlessness. The firefight lasts maybe 90 seconds. When it ends, 3 of Ricardo's men are dead, 2 more wounded. Ricardo himself is pinned against the far wall with Vincent's gun pressed to his temple. Dante approaches with controlled fury, radiating from every line of his body. You violated neutral ground, Dante says, his voice carrying deadly calm. You attempted assassination under the pretense of negotiation. Those are capital offenses in our world. Ricardo, you killed Antonio, who forfeited protection by betraying his oath and ordering hits from federal custody. Dante's gun remained steady, aimed at Ricardo's chest. But you're right. His death does require restitution. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to publicly acknowledge that Antonio violated the rules and that I acted within my rights. You're going to withdraw any territorial claims. And you're going to ensure no one from your family comes after me or mine ever again. And if I refuse? Dante's smile is sharp as broken glass. Then Vincent pulls that trigger, and I spend the next month systematically dismantling everything your family has built over 3 generations. Your choice, Ricardo. I watch Ricardo's face cycle through rage, calculation, and finally grim acceptance. He knows Dante isn't bluffing, knows that refusing means war he can't win. Fine. Ricardo spits. We withdraw our claims. Say it properly. Dante's voice doesn't rise, but command bleeds through every syllable. Antonio Giordano violated the rules. Dante Salvatore acted within his rights. The Castellano family withdraws all territorial claims and will not seek further restitution. Ricardo repeats the words with obvious hatred, but he says them clearly enough for the multiple cameras recording to capture every syllable. Insurance, I realize. Dante's creating a record that protects him if the Castellanos try to claim this resolution was forced under duress. Good. Dante lowers his weapon. Vincent, let him go. The aftermath involves cleanup crews I don't want to think too carefully about. Police who arrive and are somehow persuaded to file reports that don't mention Dante or his people. And medical personnel who treat the wounded without asking questions about how they were injured. By midnight, Dante returns to the van where I've been monitoring everything. His clothes are dusty, and he has a cut above his left eye, but he's alive and moving under his own power. That's all that matters. You okay? He asks, pulling me against him before I can ask the same question. I'm fine. You're the one who was in the actual gunfight. I touch his face carefully, checking the cut. This needs cleaning. Later. His arms tighten around me. I need a minute to process that we survived. We stand there in the cramped van, holding each other while Vincent handles logistics outside. Eventually, Dante pulls back enough to meet my eyes. You saw everything, he says quietly. The violence, the threats, the reality of what I do when negotiations fail. Are you sure you want this life? I think about the scared waitress who warned a dangerous customer about poisoned wine 3 weeks ago. Think about how that single decision led to everything that followed: the protection, the attacks, the impossible feelings developing between us. Think about the choice I'm making right now, consciously and with full understanding of what it means. Yes, I say simply, I'm sure. His kiss tastes like relief and promise and the future we're choosing together despite every rational reason to walk away. The weeks that follow establish new patterns. Dante keeps his promise to include me in decisions, and I slowly learn the complicated mechanics of his world. The legitimate businesses that employ hundreds of people, the strategic alliances that maintain peace between families, the careful balance between operating outside the law and avoiding attention from authorities who could dismantle everything. I also continue my nursing studies, working with a private tutor Dante arranges, who asks no questions about why his student needs to learn emergency medicine while living in a mansion with armed security. The skills prove useful more often than I'd like, treating injuries sustained in business disputes, providing medical care to people who can't risk hospital questions. Rosa becomes my guide to navigating the social aspects of Dante's world. The wives and girlfriends of other family members who gather for elaborate dinners where business discussions happen between courses of carefully prepared Italian food. Women who've learned to maintain elegant facades while understanding exactly what their partners do for a living. They'll judge you at first. Rosa warns me before my first dinner party. Wonder if you're strong enough for this life. But show them you're not scared, that you understand the rules, and they'll accept you. She's right. The first dinner is an exercise in careful observation and strategic silence. I watch how these women interact, the subtle hierarchies, the unspoken alliances, the way they support each other while maintaining competitive awareness of their family's standings. By the third dinner, I'm no longer being tested. By the fifth, I'm included in conversations that reveal how much power these women wield behind their partner's public authority. You're different from Dante's previous girlfriends. One woman, Maria, wife of one of Dante's closest business associates, observes over coffee. Smarter, more aware. Less interested in the glamour and more focused on survival. Is that a compliment? I ask carefully. It's an acknowledgement. She smiles. Most women in our world fall into two categories. Those who pretend ignorance about what their men do, and those who embrace it fully. You seem to exist in neither category. I see it clearly. I say slowly, choosing my words with care. Understand the violence, the moral complexity, the way power operates, but I'm not pretending it's something it isn't. I'm just choosing to stay despite knowing the truth. Maria nods approvingly. That's exactly the right attitude. Ignorance gets you killed. Naive romanticism gets your family destroyed. But conscious choice with clear understanding? That's how you survive. 4 months after that first warning at Valentino's, Dante proposes. Not with an elaborate public gesture or romantic proclamation. Instead, it happens on an ordinary Tuesday evening. We're in his office reviewing security reports when he pulls a small velvet box from his desk drawer. I know this isn't traditional, he says, opening the box to reveal a ring that takes my breath away. Platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and understated in a way that somehow feels perfect. We haven't known each other long, and most of that time has been complicated by danger and violence and circumstances neither of us chose. But Sofia, I can't imagine my life without you in it. Not as someone I'm protecting, but as my partner in every sense of the word. My throat tightens with emotion. Dante, let me finish. He takes my hand, and I notice his fingers trembling slightly. I've never been good at vulnerability. Never trusted anyone enough to show them the parts of me that aren't controlled and calculated. But you see all of me, the violence, the gentleness, the broken pieces I've spent years trying to hide, and you choose to stay anyway. That means everything. You're asking me to marry you. I'm asking you to build a life with me. Messy, complicated, dangerous, but ours. Together. His dark eyes hold mine with devastating intensity. I can't promise you safety, my world doesn't work that way, but I can promise you partnership, honesty, the certainty that whatever comes, we face it together. I think about everything that's brought us to this moment. The poisoned wine, the forced proximity, the attacks survived and feelings developed. Think about the life I'm choosing, violence, and luxury, and moral complexity, all tangled together in ways I'll spend years unraveling. Yes, I whisper. Yes, I'll marry you. He slides the ring onto my finger with hands that shake, slightly, and when he kisses me, I taste his relief. We stay there for a long moment, foreheads pressed together, both processing the magnitude of what we've just committed to. There's something else, he says quietly. Something I need you to know before we make this official. My stomach clenches. What? My father built this empire through violence and fear. He hurt people, destroyed families, left devastation in his wake. I've spent 5 years trying to build something different, more strategic, less brutal, focused on legitimate businesses with the illegal operations as support rather than foundation. He pauses. But I can't undo everything he did. There are people who suffered because of decisions he made, families destroyed by his greed, violence that ripples forward even though he's been dead 5 years. You're not your father, Dante. No, but I inherited his empire. That makes me responsible for trying to repair some of the damage, even if I can't fix everything. He stands, moves to the window overlooking the gardens. I've been setting aside money, quietly compensating families who lost breadwinners to my father's violence, funding community programs in neighborhoods his operations damaged. It's not enough, could never be enough, but it's something. The admission cracks open something in my chest. This dangerous man who could simply embrace the power he inherited is instead trying to build something better, trying to earn redemption for sins that technically aren't his. That's why you're different from other families, I say softly. Why your people are loyal beyond just fear. They see you trying to be better than what came before. I don't know if better is possible in this world, but I'm trying. He turns back to face me. And now I'm asking you to try with me. Help me build legitimate businesses that do more good than harm. Use your medical training to help people in our communities who can't access traditional healthcare. Be the conscience I need when power starts feeling like justification for anything. Partnership. I echo his earlier words. In everything. In everything. The wedding happens 3 months later, small and private despite Dante's public position. Just close family and trusted associates, held in the same garden where I spent that terrifying afternoon before the mercenary attack. Rosa cries through the entire ceremony. Vincent serves as best man with obvious pride. And my mother, who Dante flew in from the Bronx, and who somehow immediately understood and accepted the complicated reality of what I was choosing, gives me away with tears and blessings in equal measure. "You're sure about this, Mija?" she whispers before we walk down the makeshift aisle. "More sure than I've been about anything in my life." She studies my face for a long moment, then nods. "Then I'm happy for you, even if I don't fully understand it." "I'm not sure I fully understand it either, Mama, but I choose it. Anyway." Dante waits at the altar looking devastatingly handsome in a tailored suit, his expression cycling through emotions too quickly for me to catalog. When I reach him, and he takes my hands, I see everything I need to know reflected in his dark eyes. Love, commitment, the promise that whatever comes, we face it together. The vows we exchange are traditional on the surface, but weighted with meaning that extends beyond the words themselves. When I promise to stay in sickness and in health, I'm promising to treat the wounds his life inevitably inflicts. When he promises for richer or poorer, he's acknowledging that his empire could crumble and I'd stay anyway. When we both promise till death do us part, we're acknowledging that death is a more present possibility in our world than it is for most couples. But we make those promises anyway, consciously and completely. The reception is more elaborate than the ceremony, a concession to Dante's position requiring we celebrate with the families and associates whose support maintains his power. I meet more dangerous men in 3 hours than most people encounter in a lifetime, shake hands with wives who've mastered the art of elegant lethality, and navigate conversations where every word carries implications beyond surface meaning. But Dante never leaves my side, his hand a constant presence at my waist or tangled with mine. Claiming me publicly, yes, but also providing anchor when the social dynamics threaten to overwhelm. "You're doing great," he murmurs during a brief moment of relative privacy. "Maria already told me you're the best thing that's happened to me in years, and coming from her, that's high praise. I'm terrified, I admit. All these people, all this power, all these expectations I'm not sure I can meet. Then we'll figure it out together." He kisses my temple. That's what partnership means. Neither of us having all the answers but trusting we can find them when we need them. The honeymoon is 2 weeks in Sicily, visiting the villages where Dante's family originated before immigrating to America 3 generations ago. We stay in a converted farmhouse with views of rolling hills and ancient olive groves, and for 2 weeks, we pretend to be normal people on a normal vacation. But even in Sicily, Dante's reputation precedes him. Local families treat him with deference that speaks to old connections maintained across oceans and decades. We're invited to elaborate dinners where toasts are made in Italian I barely understand, where stories are shared about Dante's grandfather and the respect he commanded. This was his world, Dante explains one evening as we walk through the village. Before America, before the empire, before everything became complicated. Just family, community, survival through mutual support. Do you ever wish you could have had that? Something simpler? He considers the question carefully. Sometimes. But I was born into complexity, and I've learned to navigate it. What I wish is that I could have chosen it rather than inheriting it. He pulls me closer. But I did choose you, and that makes everything else worthwhile. We return to New York tanned and rested and ready to face whatever comes next. What comes next is unexpected, a legitimate business opportunity that could transform Dante's operations entirely. A pharmaceutical company is looking to expand into emergency medical services, and they want Dante's import-export connections to help navigate international supply chains. It's completely legal, potentially lucrative, and would allow me to use my medical training in ways that contribute to the family business. This could be the transition I've been working toward, Dante says as we review the proposal. Legitimate operations that provide the same income as the illegal ones, allowing me to phase out the activities that put us at risk. You'd actually walk away from organized crime? Not entirely. Some connections can't be severed. Some obligations can't be abandoned. But I could shift the balance. Make the legitimate businesses primary, and the illegal ones minimal, necessary only for maintaining alliances and protecting territory. The possibility feels like hope. Not escape from Dante's world, but evolution toward something that doesn't require constant violence to maintain. Over the next 6 months, we build toward that vision. I complete my nursing degree while developing relationships with medical suppliers who can provide emergency equipment to underserved communities. Dante expands his legitimate operations while carefully extracting himself from the most dangerous criminal enterprises. Vincent and Rosa help navigate the complicated politics of transforming a criminal empire into something approaching respectability. It's not perfect. Violence still erupts occasionally, territorial disputes that require firm responses, threats that must be eliminated to protect what we're building. But the Privixade trajectory is clear. We're moving toward something better, even if the journey requires compromising ideals I once thought were absolute. 1 year after our wedding, I'm pregnant. The news arrives through a home test that shows positive, then medical confirmation from a doctor who asks no questions about my unusual living situation. I tell Dante that evening in his office, watching his face cycle through shock, joy, and immediate calculation of how this changes our security requirements. A baby, he says wonderingly, his hand settling on my still flat abdomen. We're going to have a baby. Are you happy? I ask, suddenly uncertain. We've discussed children theoretically, but the reality is different from the concept. Terrified, he admits. But yes, incredibly happy. He pulls me into his lap, holding me carefully like I might break. My mother wanted grandchildren. Used to tell me that family was the only thing that mattered, that everything else, power, money, respect, was meaningless without people to share it with. She was right. She usually was. His voice carries echoes of old grief, softened now by time and healing. I wish she could have met you, known that I found someone who sees me completely and chooses to stay. She'd be proud of you, of what you're building, how you're trying to be better than what came before. He kisses me softly, and I taste promise in that contact. Promise that our child will grow up in a world we're actively working to make safer, more legitimate, more aligned with the values we want to pass forward. The pregnancy progresses normally despite my fears that the stress of our life would cause complications. Rosa hovers with Italian grandmother energy, ensuring I eat properly and rest adequately. Dante becomes even more protective, if that's possible, implementing security measures that would seem paranoid if they weren't entirely justified given our circumstances. And slowly, I watch him transform. The controlled crime boss softens into something gentler, reading parenting books with the same intensity he once applied to territorial strategy, preparing the nursery with meticulous attention to safety, speaking Italian to my growing abdomen in the evenings. What are you saying? I ask one night, his hand warm against my belly while he murmurs in his mother's language. Telling our daughter about her grandmother, how Rosa taught me to read people, how she balanced strength and compassion, how she would have loved meeting her granddaughter. He meets my eyes. We're naming her Elena, if you agree. After my mother. Tears blur my vision. That's perfect. Elena Rosa Salvatore enters the world on a Tuesday morning in March, screaming her arrival with lung capacity that suggests she inherited her father's intensity. Dante holds her with terrified reverence, this dangerous man reduced to trembling awe by 7 pounds of squirming humanity. "She's perfect," he whispers. "Sofia, she's absolutely perfect. She has your eyes," I observe, watching our daughter study her father with serious dark eyes that already seem to catalog and assess. God help us if she has my temperament. But his smile is pure joy, uncomplicated by the calculations that usually shadow his expressions. The next 5 years pass in a blur of ordinary moments and extraordinary circumstances. Elena grows into a fierce, intelligent child who navigates her father's world with the same intuitive understanding her grandmother possessed. I complete my medical training and open a clinic in an underserved neighborhood, providing emergency care to people who can't access traditional health care. Dante continues transforming his empire, phasing out criminal enterprises, and building legitimate businesses that provide the same economic foundation without the constant threat of violence. It's not perfect. There are still enemies, still occasional threats that require firm responses, but the trajectory remains. Clear we're building something better than what came before. On our 5th wedding anniversary, Dante takes me back to Valentino's. The restaurant has changed ownership. Giuseppe retired to Florida, but the corner booth where this all began remains the same. 5 years ago, you whispered a warning that changed everything, Dante says as we sit in that familiar space. Saved my life, complicated yours beyond measure, started something neither of us expected. I've never regretted it, I say honestly, not even during the worst moments. Because every choice, every complication, every danger, faced all of it led here. To us, to Elena, to the life we're building together. I love you. Part 1, The Collision. The lunch rush at Valentino's hits differently on Thursdays. Something about the way the week drags toward Friday makes people desperate for good food and strong drinks, like they can taste freedom in a plate of carbonara and a glass of Chianti. I've been serving tables here for 2 years, long enough to recognize the regulars, to know who tips well and who doesn't, to spot trouble before it fully materializes. Today feels different, though. The air carries tension I can't quite name, something electric and dangerous that makes the hair on my arms stand up every time I push through the kitchen doors. My name is Sofia Reyes. 24 years old, 2 years into a nursing degree I can't afford to finish, and currently balancing 4 plates of osso buco on my arms with the kind of grace that comes from absolute necessity. The tips at Valentino's are good enough to cover rent on my studio apartment in Queens and send money home to Mama in the Bronx. That's all that matters. Keep moving, keep smiling, keep pretending that life isn't a constant calculation of which bill gets paid this month and which one gets pushed to the next. Table 7 wants extra Parmesan. Table 12 needs another bottle of the Barolo. Table 5, the one with the hedge fund guys who've been getting progressively louder with each round of drinks, is starting to make comments about my legs that I'm pretending not to hear. Sofia. Marco calls from behind the bar, his thick Brooklyn accent cutting through the ambient noise. Your VIP just walked in. I don't need to ask which VIP. There's only one customer at Valentino's who gets that designation. Only one man whose presence makes our manager Giuseppe materialize from his office, like he's been summoned by some invisible signal. Dante Salvatore. He arrives every Thursday at exactly 1:15 in the afternoon, claims the corner booth that offers clear sightlines to both entrances and the kitchen corridor, and orders the same thing. Grilled branzino, side of roasted vegetables, sparkling water with lime. No alcohol during business hours, no dessert, no deviation from routine. I've served him maybe 30 times over the past 8 months, and I still can't figure him out. Everything about Dante Salvatore screams money and power. The suits that probably cost more than I make in 3 months. The watch that catches light like it's made of compressed starlight. The way other diners lower their voices when he walks past. Some instinct warning them that this is a man who commands respect through presence alone. But it's his eyes that unsettle me most. Dark, almost black, conducting constant surveillance of everything and everyone around him. I've watched him track waitstaff movements, note which tables fill with which types of customers, observe patterns that most people would never think to catalog. He's always aware, always calculating, like he's running equations in his head that the rest of us can't see. Sofia, you're staring again, my coworker Lucia whispers as she passes with a tray of appetizers. Careful, or you'll end up like the last girl who got too interested in the wrong customer. I don't ask what happened to the last girl. Some things are better left unknown. If you're enjoying this, our story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The lunch shift blurs into its usual rhythm. I deliver pasta, clear plates, smile through increasingly aggressive flirtation from table 5, and try to ignore the way my feet are already aching in these shoes that looked cute when I bought them, but turn out to be instruments of torture after hour 3 of a double shift. Dante eats his lunch with the same measured precision he applies to everything else. No phone at the table, no laptop, just him and his food and that constant awareness that never seems to rest. When I bring his check, he places $200 bills on the table without looking at the total. The meal costs $48. The rest is mine. Thank you, Mr. Salvatore, I say quietly, the way I always do. He looks up then, really looks at me for the first time today. You're studying nursing? The question catches me off guard. We've never had a conversation beyond the professional script of server and customer. How did you know that? You have a textbook in your bag. He gestures toward the server station where I'd tucked my backpack. The corner of a pathophysiology text is visible through the partially open zipper. Pathophysiology. Third-year coursework, if I remember correctly. You studied nursing? Something that might be amusement flickers across his features. My mother was a nurse. Before she passed, she used to quiz me on medical terminology at dinner. Drove my father crazy. The personal detail feels like a gift I haven't earned. I should thank him for the generous tip and move on to my next table. Instead, I hear myself asking, what kind of nursing did she practice? Emergency room, Bellevue Hospital, 20 years of night shifts, and trauma cases that would give most people nightmares. His voice carries no emotion, but something in his eyes suggests those memories cost more than he's willing to show. She said the ER taught her to read people under pressure, to spot the difference between someone in real crisis and someone performing crisis for attention. That's a valuable skill. Very valuable. He stands, adjusting his jacket with practiced precision. In any profession. He leaves before I can formulate a response, and I'm left standing beside his table with $200 in my hand, and the unsettling feeling that our conversation just shifted into territory I don't understand. The afternoon shift brings its own kind of chaos. Valentino's is located in Midtown Manhattan, prime real estate that attracts business lunches, tourist groups, and the occasional celebrity trying to eat in relative peace. Giuseppe runs the place with an iron fist wrapped in Italian hospitality, and his cardinal rule is simple: never ask questions about the customers, especially the ones who pay in cash and tip like money is meaningless. I'm clearing table 12 when I notice them. 2 men, both wearing dark suits that don't quite fit right, sitting at a table near the bar with untouched glasses of wine in front of them. They've been there for 40 minutes, and neither has ordered food. More concerning is the way they keep glancing toward the corner booth, the one Dante always occupies on Thursdays. My nursing training kicks in before conscious thought can interfere. I learn to spot patterns in patient behavior, to recognize the subtle signs that someone's condition is deteriorating before the monitors start alarming. These men are displaying elevated stress responses, rapid eye movements, involuntary hand gestures that suggest nervous energy seeking outlet. The way the older one keeps adjusting his jacket, like he's checking to make sure something is still there. Something is very wrong. I catch Marco's eye and tilt my head slightly toward the suspicious table. He's worked at Valentino's for 15 years, long enough to have his own instincts about danger. His expression tightens fractionally before returning to professional neutrality. Sofia, Giuseppe appears at my elbow, his voice low enough that only I can hear. Go take your break. Now. But I'm not scheduled for... Now, Sofia. The command in his voice leaves no room for argument. I retreat to the staff room, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the service window, I watch the 2 men at the bar. One of them pulls out his phone, types something quickly, then sets it face down on the table. 30 seconds later, a third man enters Valentino's. Younger than the other 2, moving with a casual confidence that doesn't match the tension radiating from his body. He doesn't acknowledge the men at the bar. Instead, he claims a table with a direct view of the corner booth and orders a Negroni from Lucia. Professional surveillance. I've seen enough crime dramas to recognize the setup. But this isn't television. This is real, happening in the restaurant, where I work, targeting a customer I've served for 8 months. I should stay in the staff room, mind my own business, let whatever's about to happen unfold without my involvement. My responsibilities are to serve food, collect tips, and get home safely at the end of my shift. Nothing more. But I think about Dante's mother, the ER nurse who spent 20 years reading people under pressure. I think about the generous tips that have helped me pay for textbooks and keep Mama's lights on. I think about the way he mentioned his mother without the careful distance most people maintain around grief. Before rational thought can stop me, I'm moving back toward the dining room. The next Thursday arrives wrapped in the kind of November cold that makes New York feel hostile. I take the subway from Queens, pressed against other commuters in the morning rush, trying not to think about the midterm exam I barely studied for or the electric bill that's 2 weeks overdue. Valentino's is already preparing for the lunch service when I arrive. The scent of garlic and fresh bread fills the kitchen, and Giuseppe is in his usual spot by the host stand, reviewing reservations with the intensity of a general planning military strategy. "Sofia, you're on the main floor today," he says without looking up, "and I need you to pay special attention to table 15. We have a large party coming in at noon. Business associates. They're expecting exceptional service. Of course, the morning passes in familiar patterns. I prep the service station, help the new girl understand the espresso machine's temperamental personality, and try to ignore the way my stomach keeps tightening with anxiety I can't name. 1:15 arrives. Right on schedule, Dante Salvatore walks through the entrance. But something is different today. He's not alone. 2 men flank him, both wearing the same expensive suits and carrying themselves with the same controlled awareness. They don't touch Dante, don't position themselves as obvious bodyguards, but their presence screams protection detail to anyone paying attention. Giuseppe seats them at the corner booth, and I approach with menus and my professional smile firmly in place. "Good afternoon, Mr. Salvatore. Will you be ordering your usual today?" Dante's dark eyes find mine, and I catch something in his expression I've never seen before. Concern, maybe. Or warning. "Yes, Sofia, the usual for all 3 of us." I take the order to the kitchen, my hands trembling slightly as I clip the ticket to the line. Marco catches my wrist as I pass the bar. "Stay sharp today," he says quietly. "Something's happening. Giuseppe's been on the phone all morning with people he only calls when there's trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "The kind we don't ask about." The main floor fills with the lunch crowd. I deliver food, refill drinks, and maintain the careful choreography that keeps everything running smoothly. But I can't shake the feeling that I'm watching a play where I don't know the script, where something crucial is happening just outside my understanding. The large party Giuseppe mentioned arrives at noon. 12 men in expensive suits, speaking Italian and English in equal measure, discussing business matters I don't try to follow. They order wine, antipasti, and enough food to suggest they're settling in for a long meal. I'm delivering their 3rd course when I notice the pattern. Every 15 minutes, one of the men excuses himself. They're rotating in shifts, each one leaving the table for exactly 5 minutes before returning and allowing the next to depart. The movements are too coordinated to be coincidence. Through the front windows, I spot what they're doing. Each man who leaves the restaurant positions himself somewhere on the street outside. Within an hour, there are surveillance points covering every approach to Valentino's entrance. My nursing training screams warnings. This isn't normal business lunch behavior. This is preparation for something significant, something that requires this many people maintaining watch. Then I see them, the same 2 men from last week, the ones who'd sat at the bar watching Dante's table. They're across the street now, leaning against a building with the forced casualness of people trying too hard to blend in. I need to warn someone. Giuseppe? Marco? But what would I say? That I have a bad feeling? That customers are acting suspicious in ways I can't quite articulate? The decision is taken from me when one of the men from Dante's booth stands and approaches the host stand. He speaks quietly with Giuseppe, whose expression cycles through concern, calculation, and grim acceptance in the span of seconds. Giuseppe's eyes find mine across the dining room. He gestures sharply, summoning me with the urgency usually reserved for kitchen fires or customer heart attacks. "Sofia, I need you to do something, and I need you to not ask questions." His voice is barely above a whisper. "Mr. Salvatore's usual drink, you're going to prepare it yourself today. No one else touches it. Understand? But I'm not a bartender, I know. But Mr. Salvatore requested you specifically. He trusts you." Giuseppe pulls a bottle of sparkling water from beneath the host stand. "Use this bottle. Only this bottle. Add fresh lime, fresh ice. Deliver it directly to his table. Let no one intercept you between the bar and table 15. The weight of what he's asking settles over me like a physical presence. Giuseppe, what's happening? Nothing. If you do exactly as I'm telling you. His expression softens fractionally. Sofia, you're a good girl. You work hard, you don't cause trouble, and you take care of your family. That kind of loyalty matters in this world. Do this one thing, and I promise you'll be protected regardless of what happens next. I want to refuse. Want to clock out and go home and pretend I never saw any of this. But the $200 tips and the memory of Dante mentioning his mother and the very real fear that something terrible is about to happen all combine into a decision I don't consciously make. Okay. I'll do it. I prepare the drink exactly as Giuseppe instructed, hyper-aware of every movement, every person who passes nearby. The ice cubes clink against the glass like tiny alarm bells. The lime releases its sharp citrus scent when I squeeze it. My hands shake slightly as I place everything on a tray. The walk from the bar to table 15 feels like crossing a battlefield. Every eye in the restaurant seems to track my movement, though rationally I know most diners are absorbed in their own conversations. It's just paranoia, just the weight of knowing something is wrong without understanding what. I'm 3 steps from Dante's table when I see it. The younger man from surveillance, the one who'd ordered a Negroni last week, is approaching from the opposite direction. He carries a glass of wine on a small tray, moving with purpose toward the corner booth. Our paths are going to intersect. He's going to reach the table first. Time dilates in that strange way it does during emergencies. My nursing instructors called it acute stress response, the phenomenon where seconds stretch into crystalline moments of hyper-awareness. I see the wine glass on his tray. Note the way the liquid catches light differently than it should. Register the faint chemical smell that doesn't belong in Barolo. I see Dante reaching for the glass the man is offering, see his hand extending with the same measured precision he applies to everything. And I remember his mother, the ER nurse who spent 20 years reading people under pressure, who taught her son to spot the difference between real crisis and performed crisis. My body moves before conscious thought can interfere. Your drink is poisoned, I whisper, leaning close enough that only Dante can hear. Don't finish it. His hand freezes inches from the wine glass. Those dark eyes snap to mine with laser focus, reading something in my expression that makes him trust me, despite having no rational reason to do so. Then he does something I don't expect. His arm wraps around my waist and pulls me down into the booth beside him, positioning me against his body with protective precision that leaves no doubt about his intentions. Stay close, he says quietly, his voice carrying lethal calm. And don't move. The young man with the poisoned wine stops mid-approach, confusion flickering across his features. He's close enough now that I can see the details. Giuseppe's warning made me hyper-aware of the way he holds the tray at an angle that would make it easy to drop and run. The nervous sweat beating at his temples despite the restaurant's comfortable temperature. The bulge under his jacket that suggests he's carrying something more dangerous than just poisoned wine. Mr. Salvatore, the man says, attempting a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Compliments of the house. Giuseppe thought you might enjoy our reserve Barolo today. Giuseppe knows I don't drink alcohol during business hours. Dante's voice remains conversational, but I feel the tension in his body, coiled and ready. His arm around me tightens fractionally. And I didn't order wine. Special occasion. The man's smile becomes strained. New partnership with the winery. We're offering samples to valued customers. One of Dante's companions, the older one with silver threading through his dark hair, stands with fluid grace. Antonio, why don't you take that back to the bar? Mr. Salvatore appreciates the gesture, but he'll stay with his usual order. The name triggers recognition. Antonio Messina. I've heard Giuseppe mention him before, always in the context of deliveries that come through the back entrance after hours, always with the kind of careful neutrality that suggests dangerous associations. Antonio's eyes narrow. His hand shifts on the tray, and I catch the glint of metal beneath his jacket. Everything inside me screams danger with the same clarity as a monitor alarm signaling cardiac arrest. Dante must sense it too, because his next movement is pure controlled violence. He shoves me down below the table line just as Antonio drops the tray and draws a weapon. Glass explodes. Wine splashes across white tablecloth like arterial spray. People scream. But Dante's companions are already moving. The silver-haired one has Antonio's wrist in a grip that makes bones crunch. The younger one produces his own weapon with speed that suggests extensive training. Within 3 seconds, Antonio is face down on the floor with his arms twisted behind his back, and the entire restaurant has gone silent. Giuseppe appears from nowhere, his expression grim but unsurprised. Kitchen, now, all of you. I try to stand, but Dante keeps me pinned against his side. She comes with me. Dante, the girl doesn't need to. She saved my life. His voice cuts through, Giuseppe's objection like a blade. That means she's involved whether we like it or not, and I'm not leaving her exposed while we clean this up. The kitchen is chaos. Cooks abandon their stations, waitstaff press against walls, and Giuseppe bolts the service entrance with the kind of efficiency that suggests he's done this before. Dante releases me only long enough to verify the space is secure. Then his hand finds the small of my back again, keeping me close. What did you see? He asks, his attention fixed on me with unsettling intensity. Why did you warn me about the wine? My brain struggles to form coherent thoughts. The smell. It was wrong. Wine shouldn't have that sharp chemical undertone. And the way he was holding the tray, like he expected to drop it and run. And the surveillance team outside has been watching you for 2 weeks. And, surveillance team? Dante exchanges glances with his companions. What surveillance team? I explain about the 2 men from last week, about the coordinated departures from the large party table, about the positions they'd taken on the street outside. With each detail, Dante's expression grows darker. Sofia, how do you know to notice these things? The question comes from the silver-haired man. Most civilians wouldn't spot professional surveillance. I'm studying nursing, emergency medicine specifically. They teach us to read patients, to spot the signs of deterioration before they become critical. Elevated heart rate, nervous gestures, behavioral inconsistencies. I gesture helplessly. It's the same skill set, just applied differently. Dante's hand moves to cup my face, turning me to look directly at him. You just made yourself a target. You understand that? Whoever sent Antonio won't stop with one failed attempt. They'll come for you to punish me for their failure. Terror floods my system, cold and sharp. I was just trying to help. I know, and that's why you're coming home with me. Not as a prisoner, he adds quickly, reading my expression. As someone under my protection until this situation is resolved. I can't just leave. I have classes tomorrow, and my mother will be taken care of. Giuseppe interrupts, his voice firm. Sofia, listen to me. Dante Salvatore is not a man you refuse when he offers protection. Not in this world. You walk out that door alone, and you won't make it to the subway. The reality of my situation crashes over me in waves. I came to work this morning worried about a midterm exam and an overdue electric bill. Now I'm standing in a restaurant kitchen with a man who might be a criminal, who definitely just survived an assassination attempt, who's telling me my life is in danger because I whispered a warning. How long? My voice sounds small even to my own ears. How long would this protection last? Dante's expression softens fractionally. As long as it takes to eliminate the threat. Days, maybe weeks. I can't give you a timeline because I don't know who ordered the hit or how deep their network runs. I think about Mama, about my studio apartment, with its persistent radiator noises and the view of the building across the street. About my pathophysiology textbook still sitting in my bag by the server station. About the normal life I'd been living just 2 hours ago. Okay, I hear myself say. Okay, I'll come with you. Dante nods once, his decision made. Then he does something that surprises me. He pulls out his phone and makes a call, speaking in rapid Italian that I can only partially follow. When he hangs up, he meets my eyes with unexpected gentleness. I'm sending someone to check on your mother. Make sure she's safe. Give her a cover story about you taking a temporary position that requires immediate relocation. She'll be protected too, Sofia. Anyone connected to you becomes my responsibility now. The gesture cracks something open in my chest. This dangerous man who orders people around like chess pieces is thinking about my mother's safety, is creating cover stories to keep her from worrying. It doesn't match any of my expectations about what a mafia boss should be. Because that's what he is. I realize with stark clarity. The generous tips, the surveillance, Giuseppe's deference, the way violence erupted around him with practiced precision, all of it points to one conclusion. Dante Salvatore is exactly the kind of man Mama always warned me to stay away from. And I just put myself completely in his power. Dante's car is exactly what I expect, black, expensive, with windows tinted dark enough to suggest privacy is a priority over legality. What I don't expect is the gentleness with which he guides me into the back seat, his hand steady against my lower back, as if I'm something precious, rather than a complication he's been forced to accommodate. The driver is a mountain of a man with graying temples and eyes that track movement with the same predatory awareness Dante possesses. He doesn't ask questions, doesn't even acknowledge my presence beyond a slight nod when Dante murmurs something in Italian. "Where are we going?" I ask as the car pulls away from Valentino's. Through the rear window, I watch Giuseppe standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Somewhere safe. Dante sits close enough that I can feel heat radiating from his body, but he's careful not to crowd me. My home. It's protected in ways that will make sense once you see it. The drive through Manhattan takes 40 minutes that feel like hours. Dante spends most of it on the phone, speaking in rapid Italian that occasionally shifts into English when he's issuing direct commands. I catch fragments, secure the perimeter, sweep for surveillance. No one approaches without verification, that paint a picture of military-grade security being mobilized around whatever awaits me. We cross the bridge into Brooklyn, but we don't stop in the neighborhoods I recognize. Instead, we continue into an area where buildings spread out, where walls appear around properties, where money whispers instead of shouts. The car finally pulls through gates that look decorative but slide open with mechanical precision that suggests serious engineering underneath the ornamental iron. The house mansion really sits back from the street, surrounded by manicured grounds that probably require a full-time staff to maintain. It's beautiful in an understated way, all clean lines and expensive materials that speak of wealth without screaming about it. But what catches my attention are the cameras. Dozens of them, positioned at angles that must provide complete coverage of every approach. "How many people live here?" I ask as the driver opens my door. "Right now?" "Just me and the staff." Dante offers his hand to help me out, but that changes as of today. The interior is even more impressive than the exterior. Marble floors, original artwork, furniture that belongs in design magazines, but there's also something lived in about it, something that suggests this is a home rather than just a showcase. Books stacked on side tables, a sweater draped over a chair, the faint scent of coffee lingering in the air. A woman appears from what must be the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. She's maybe 50, with kind eyes and silver threading through her dark hair, and she takes one look at me before breaking into rapid Italian directed at Dante. "Sofia, this is Rosa," Dante says, his hand still resting lightly against my back. "She manages the household and will make sure you have everything you need. Rosa, this is Sofia Reyes. She'll be staying with us for the foreseeable future." Rosa's expression softens as she studies me. Whatever she sees must satisfy her, because she nods and switches to accented but clear English. "Welcome, Miss Sofia. Are you hungry? I have fresh bread, and the soup will be ready in 30 minutes. The normalcy of the question, "Am I hungry?" strikes me as absurd given everything that's just happened, but my stomach chooses that moment to remind me I haven't eaten since a rushed breakfast 7 hours ago. "Yes, actually." "Thank you." Rosa beams and disappears back toward the kitchen, already talking to herself in Italian about what she'll prepare. Dante watches her go with an expression that might be affection, if I'm reading him correctly. "Rosa was my mother's closest friend," he explains quietly. "When my mother died, Rosa came to work for us. She's been here 15 years now, and she runs this house with more authority than I run my businesses." The mention of his mother pulls me back to our conversation at Valentino's, to the revelation about the ER nurse who taught him to read people under pressure. "How old were you when she passed?" 19, old enough to understand what we were losing, too young to prevent it. His jaw tightens. "She was killed because of my father's business. Wrong place, wrong time, caught in dock, crossfire that was meant for someone else." The pain in his voice is carefully controlled but unmistakable. "I'm sorry. So am I." He gestures toward the hallway. "Let me show you to your room. You'll want to rest, and I have calls to make about our situation." My room turns out to be a suite that's larger than my entire studio apartment. King-sized bed with linens that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Private bathroom with a tub deep enough to swim in. Windows overlooking the gardens with views that would be breathtaking if my mind could focus on anything beyond the surreal reality of my circumstances. "Rosa will bring you clothes," Dante says from the doorway. "Similar sizes, different styles. Whatever doesn't work, we'll replace." There's a laptop on the desk if you need to contact your professors about missing classes. Make whatever excuses necessary, but don't reveal your location. How long do you think? I don't know. His honesty is somehow more frightening than a comforting lie would be. The attempt on my life today was coordinated and well-funded. That suggests organization rather than individual vendetta. Finding who ordered it and neutralizing the threat could take days or weeks. Weeks. The word hangs in the air between us, heavy with implications. Weeks of living in this mansion, under Dante's protection, separated from my normal life. My mother is being watched by two of my best people. They'll maintain distance, let her live normally, but they'll intervene if anyone approaches with hostile intent. He pauses. I meant what I said, Sofia. Your family is my responsibility now. I protect what's mine. The possessive language should alarm me. Instead, it triggers a warmth in my chest that I don't want to examine too closely. I'm not yours. His smile is sharp as broken glass. You saved my life. In my world, that creates bonds that don't break easily. Whether you like it or not, we're connected now. He leaves before I can formulate a response. And I'm alone in luxury that feels more like a very comfortable prison cell. The first 3 days establish a routine that feels simultaneously normal and completely surreal. I wake in sheets that cost more than my textbooks, eat meals Rosa prepares with obvious love, and spend hours in what Rosa calls the library, a room, lined floor to ceiling with books that suggest someone in this house takes reading seriously. Dante appears at meals but spends most of his time in what I assume is his office, conducting business through phone calls and video conferences that sometimes stretch late into the night. When we do interact, he's unfailingly polite, respectful of my space, careful never to touch me without permission, but I catch him watching me sometimes. Not in the predatory way men at the restaurant do, evaluating what they can take. This is different. Assessment, maybe. Or curiosity about the woman who's disrupted his carefully controlled world. On the 4th day, I find him in the library at 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Anxiety about midterm exams mixing with worry about mama and confusion about my situation into a cocktail that made rest impossible. I'd come downstairs hoping to find something to read, and instead I find Dante sitting in darkness, staring out the windows at the gardens beyond. Can't sleep either? He asks without turning around. Too much to process. I settle into a chair across from him, maintaining careful distance. How do you do this? Live with constant danger, always looking over your shoulder, never knowing who to trust. Practice. He finally looks at me, and in the dim light from the hallway, I can see exhaustion etched into his features. I was born into this world, Sofia. My father ran operations throughout New York and New Jersey. I learned about loyalty and betrayal before most children learn multiplication tables. That sounds like a terrible childhood. It had its moments. Something that might be. Amusement touches his expression. My mother tried to give me normalcy. Piano lessons, soccer practice, birthday parties with kids from the neighborhood. She wanted me to have choices she and my father never had. Did it work? The normalcy? For a while. Until I was 12 and came home from school to find my father's associates cleaning blood off the kitchen floor. One of his rivals had sent a message by killing our dog. His voice stays level, factual. That's when I understood that normal wasn't possible for me. Not then, probably not ever. The casual mention of childhood trauma makes my chest ache. I'm sorry you went through that. Don't be. It taught me valuable lessons about power and consequence. He stands, moves to the window, hands in his pockets, as he studies the darkness outside. My father built an empire through violence and intimidation. When he died 5 years ago, I inherited everything, the businesses, the territory, the enemies. But I also inherited the choice of how to run things. And how do you run things? Differently than he did. He turns to face me. My father believed fear was the only currency that mattered. Hurt people before they hurt you. Take what you want and destroy anyone who objects. I prefer strategic thinking over brute force, alliances over annihilation. Building something that lasts instead of burning everything down. The philosophy sounds almost reasonable until I remember I'm talking to a man whose world just involved poison and attempted assassination. But you still hurt people, when necessary. No apology in his voice, just acknowledgement. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not, Sofia. I've made choices that would horrify you if you knew the details, But I've also built legitimate businesses that employ hundreds of people, support families, contribute to communities. It's not all darkness. I want to ask what those choices were, what exactly he's done that would horrify me, but I'm not sure I'm ready for those answers yet. Instead, I ask, why did you trust my warning? At the restaurant. You didn't know me, had no reason to believe me, but you trusted me anyway. He moves closer, and I force myself not to retreat. Because you reminded me of my mother. The way you moved through the restaurant, reading people, spotting patterns. The concern in your voice when you warned me wasn't for yourself, it was for me. That kind of genuine worry doesn't come from people with ulterior motives. Your mother taught you well. She taught me that intelligence and compassion aren't weaknesses. That reading people is more valuable than intimidating them. That the strongest alliances are built on trust rather than fear. His hand comes up, brushing a strand of hair from my face with unexpected gentleness. She would have liked you. The touch sends electricity through my nervous system. I should step back, maintain professional distance. Remind myself this man is dangerous, regardless of how gentle he's being. Instead, I find myself leaning into the contact. Dante, I know. His thumb traces my cheekbone. This complicates everything. You're supposed to be under my protection. Not. He trails off, leaving the sentence unfinished but its meaning clear. Not developing feelings? I whisper. Definitely not that. But he doesn't step away, and neither do I. And when he leans down to kiss me, I meet him halfway. The kiss is nothing like I expected. Gentle, almost reverent, like he's offering something precious, rather than taking what he wants. His hand cups my face while the other settles at my waist, pulling me closer but carefully, always giving me room to pull away if I choose. I don't pull away. When we finally break apart, both breathing hard, reality crashes back with uncomfortable clarity. I'm kissing a man whose world involves violence I can't fully comprehend. A man who might be a criminal, who definitely has enemies willing to poison him in public restaurants. A man whose protection I need but whose feelings I shouldn't be reciprocating. This is a terrible idea, I say, even as my hands remain fisted in his shirt. The worst. His forehead rests against mine. But I'm not sure I care anymore. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The next morning brings harsh reality in the form of a phone call that has Dante's expression darkening with every second. I'm in the kitchen helping Rosa prepare breakfast when he appears, tension radiating from every line of his body. They found Antonio's handler, he says without preamble, the man who gave him the poisoned wine and sent him to Valentino's. My stomach drops. And he's dead. Executed sometime last night, along with 2 other associates we'd identified as part of the surveillance team. Dante accepts the coffee Rosa pours with, a distracted nod of thanks. Whoever ordered the hit on me is cleaning up loose ends, making sure no one can provide information about their identity. What does that mean for us? His eyes find mine, and I see calculation mixed with something darker. It means they're serious enough to eliminate their own people. And it means you're in more danger than I initially thought. Why? I'm just a witness. I don't know anything about who ordered the hit, but you're connected to me now. They'll see you as leverage, a way to hurt me or force me into making mistakes. He sets down his coffee with careful precision. I need to increase security. More men on the property, limited access to communications, restricted movements outside the compound. The words, outside the compound, trigger immediate resistance. I can't stay locked up here indefinitely, Dante. I have a life, responsibilities, people who need me. Your mother is safe. Your professors have been notified you're dealing with a Dante Destante. Family emergency. Your rent has been paid through the end of the year. He anticipates every objection before I can voice it. Right now, staying alive is your only responsibility. You can't just take over my entire existence. I can, and I will, if that's what keeps you breathing. His voice hardens. You don't understand the people we're dealing with, Sofia. They don't follow rules or honor boundaries. They hurt whoever they need to hurt to achieve their objectives. And right now, hurting you would achieve the objective of destabilizing me. Rosa makes a soft noise of sympathy, and I realize we're having this argument in front of her. Dante must realize it too, because he takes my arm gently but firmly and guides me toward his office. The room is exactly what I'd expect. Massive desk, Wall of monitors showing security feeds from around the property. Shelves lined with books on everything from military strategy to Renaissance art. But what catches my attention is the photograph. On his desk, a woman with Dante's dark eyes and warm smile, wearing scrubs and holding a stethoscope, looking at the camera like the photographer just said something funny. "Your mother," I say softly, "the year before she died." He picks up the frame, studies it with an expression that makes my chest ache. She was working a double shift at the hospital. Exhausted but still smiling. Still finding joy in helping people despite everything the job demanded. She's beautiful. She was extraordinary. He sets the photo down with careful precision. And she died because my father didn't take threats seriously enough. Because he thought his power would protect everyone in his orbit. I won't make that mistake. The raw honesty in his voice cracks something open inside me. This isn't just about control or possessiveness. This is about a 19-year-old who lost his mother to violence and now carries the weight of protecting everyone close to him. "I'm not your mother," I say gently. "And you're not responsible for what happened to her. I know that, intellectually." His hand finds mine, fingers intertwining. But knowing something and feeling it are different things. When you warned me about the wine, when you put yourself at risk to save my life, something shifted. "I can't lose someone else, He trails off, seeming to catch himself before saying something he's not ready to articulate. "Someone you what?" His hand comes up to cup my face, thumb brushing across my cheekbone with devastating tenderness. "Someone I care about more than I should." The admission hangs in the air between us, weighted with implications neither of us is ready to fully examine. I should step back, maintain emotional distance, remind myself that developing feelings for Dante Salvatore is a complication my life doesn't need. Instead, I find myself leaning into his touch, accepting the truth I've been avoiding since that kiss in the library. I care about him too, more than I should, definitely more than is safe. "This is complicated," I whisper. "Everything worth having is complicated." He leans down, his lips brushing against mine with aching gentleness. "I'm not asking you to love me, Sofia. I'm asking you to trust me, to believe that keeping you safe is my priority above everything else." "Even your business?" "Especially my business." The certainty in his voice leaves no room for doubt. "I've built an empire over 15 years. I can rebuild territory and recover losses. But I can't bring back people I've failed to protect. So yes, keeping you alive matters more than any deal or alliance or show of strength." The declaration should terrify me. Instead, it makes me feel safer than I have since this nightmare began. The attack comes 3 days later, swift and brutal, and terrifyingly professional. I'm in the gardens with Rosa, learning about the herbs she grows for cooking. When the first shot shatters a window on the second floor, Rosa moves with speed that belies her age, grabbing my arm and dragging me toward the house with strength born from years of surviving in dangerous proximity to violent men. "Run," she commands, her accent thickening with fear. "To Dante's office, now!" More gunfire erupts, closer this time. I catch glimpses of men in tactical gear scaling the walls, moving with military precision that speaks of extensive training. Dante's security team returns fire, but the attackers have numbers and surprise on their side. Rosa shoves me through the kitchen door, as bullets tear chunks from the doorframe beside my head. Wood splinters fly like shrapnel. My nursing training screams, assessment protocols evaluate injuries, triage, respond, but terror overrides professional instinct. All I can do is run. Dante's office door is locked. I pound on it with both fists, screaming his name, aware that every second spent in the hallway is a second vulnerable to enemy fire. The door flies open, and Dante pulls me inside with one hand, while the other grips a gun I've never seen him carry before. "How many?" he demands. "I don't know. 6? 8? They came over the walls with professional equipment, mercenaries." He moves to the monitors, rapidly scanning security feeds that show chaos unfolding across his property. Russian most likely, based on their tactical formation. Someone with serious resources hired them. What do we do? Instead of answering, he opens what looks like a bookshelf to reveal a hidden panic room. Steel-reinforced walls, independent ventilation, enough supplies to survive a siege. "Get inside. Lock it from within. Don't open it for anyone except me, or Vincent, my driver. You remember him? Dante, I'm not leaving you out here. You're not leaving me." You're doing exactly what I need you to do, which is stay alive. He grabs my shoulders, his eyes fierce with intensity. Sofia, if something happens to me, Vincent knows how to get you out safely. He has instructions to take you to a great, secure location with documents and money. You'll be protected even if I'm not here. The implication that he might die defending me sends ice through my veins. No. We fight together or we run together, but I'm not hiding while you. A massive explosion rocks the house. The monitors flicker and die. Dante curses in Italian and pushes me toward the panic room with more force. Now, Sofia, please. The please breaks my resistance. I stumble into the panic room, and he slams the door behind me. Through the small reinforced window, I watch him check his weapon and move toward the office entrance, with the same controlled precision he applies to everything. Then the lights go out. The panic room has emergency lighting that casts everything in dim red illumination. I can hear gunfire, shouting, the sounds of combat echoing through walls that seem suddenly paper-thin. My hands shake as I try to process what's happening. Professional mercenaries attacking a fortified compound to get to Dante, and by extension, to get to me. This is my fault. If I hadn't warned him, if I just minded my own business at Valentino's, none of this would be happening. Dante wouldn't be fighting for his life. Rosa wouldn't be in danger. His security team wouldn't be dying to protect a waitress who didn't understand the world she was stepping into. Time loses meaning in the panic room. Minutes feel like hours. Every sound might be rescue or might be enemy forces breaking through. I count my breaths, force myself to stay calm. Remember the emergency room training that taught me crisis management under pressure. Finally, after what might be 20 minutes, or might be 2 hours, the door handle moves. I press myself against the far wall, grabbing the only weapon available, a heavy flashlight from the emergency supplies. Sofia, it's me. Open the door. Dante's voice. I fumble with the locks, hands trembling so badly I can barely work the mechanism. The door swings open to reveal him, covered in dust and what looks like blood, but standing upright and apparently functional. Are you hurt? My nursing assessment kicks in immediately. Where's the blood from? Not mine. He pulls me out of the panic room, checking me over with the same systematic thoroughness I was applying to him. Are you injured? Did anyone get close to this room? No. I'm fine. What happened? We repelled the attack, killed 3, captured 2 alive, the rest retreated. His jaw tightens. But they got inside the house, Sofia. They breached security I thought was impenetrable. That can't happen again. The implications settle over me like a shroud. If this house isn't safe, nowhere is safe. The danger isn't going away. It's escalating. I want to help. The words emerge before I can reconsider them. Not hide in panic rooms while people die protecting me. I want to do something useful. Dante studies me for a long moment, and I see the moment he makes a decision. Then let's put that nursing training to use. I have 2 wounded men who need medical attention, and I'd rather not take them to a hospital where questions would be asked. He leads me to what looks like a converted bedroom on the first floor. 2 of his security personnel lie on beds, one with a bullet wound to the shoulder, the other with what looks like shrapnel injuries from the explosion. Rosa is already there with basic first aid supplies, but her relieved expression when she sees me suggests she's out of her depth. I'm not a doctor, I warn, moving to assess the shoulder wound first. I haven't finished my training. You know more than anyone else here. Dante hands me sterile gloves from a surprisingly well-stocked medical kit. Do what you can. I'll call my doctor for anything beyond your capability. The next 2 hours disappear into the familiar rhythm of emergency care. The shoulder wound is clean through and through, missing major vessels and bone. I clean it, pack it, and wrap it with the efficiency of someone who spent hundreds of hours in clinical rotations. The shrapnel injuries require more delicate work, picking out fragments of metal and glass while monitoring for signs of deeper trauma. Dante stays with me through all of it, anticipating what I need before I ask, holding limbs steady while I work, speaking softly in Italian to his men when pain makes them tense. He's gentle and competent in ways that don't match my image of a dangerous crime boss. When I finally step back, both men are stable and resting. My hands are steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through my system. This, at least, is familiar territory. Crisis management, emergency medicine, saving lives instead of just surviving danger. You're good at this, Dante observes, watching me strip off bloody gloves. Natural, confident. Like you were born for emergency medicine. It's what I've always wanted to do. I wash my hands in the small sink, scrubbing away blood that isn't mine. Help people in their worst moments. Make a difference when it matters most. And instead you're here, treating gunshot wounds in my makeshift medical bay. Something that might be guilt crosses his expression. This isn't the life you chose, Sofia. No, it's not. I dry my hands carefully, choosing honesty over comforting lies. But I'm here anyway, and people needed help, so I helped them. That part doesn't change regardless of circumstances. He moves closer, and I don't retreat. His hand finds mine, fingers stained with dust and blood intertwining. I'm going to end this. Find whoever ordered the hit, eliminate the threat permanently. You'll get your life back. Will I? The question emerges softer than I intend. Because I'm starting to think my old life ended the moment I warned you about poisoned wine. Maybe this is my life now. Maybe it is. His other hand comes up to cup my face, and I see vulnerability in his eyes that I've never witnessed before. Would that be so terrible? The honest answer is I don't know. 2 weeks ago, the idea of being permanently tied to a man like Dante Salvatore would have horrified me. Now, standing in his blood-stained clothes, having just saved his men's lives, I'm not sure what I feel beyond the certainty that walking away would hurt more than staying. Ask me again when we're not covered in other people's blood, I say, attempting lightness that doesn't quite land. His laugh is quiet but genuine. Fair enough. Rosa appears in the doorway, her expression grim. Dante, you need to see this. The men we captured are talking. We follow her to what must be a wine cellar converted into an interrogation room. The 2 captured mercenaries sit bound to chairs, and one is speaking rapidly in accented English, while Vincent stands nearby with arms crossed. Didn't know the target details, the man is saying. Just coordinates and timeline. Payment was transferred through cryptocurrency. Orders came through encrypted channels. But the Fi's voice on the comms had an accent. Italian, maybe Sicilian. Old family. Based on the phrasing he used, Dante's expression darkens. Which family? Didn't give a name. But he mentioned Chicago operations, territory disputes from 5 years ago. Something about debts that need settling. I watch understanding dawn across Dante's features, followed immediately by cold fury that makes me step back instinctively. When he speaks, his voice carries lethal calm that's more frightening than shouting would be. Antonio Giordano, it has to be. He blamed my father for losing Chicago territory, swore vengeance before disappearing into federal protection. He turns to Vincent. Find him. I don't care if he's in witness protection or hiding in Alaska. Find him and bring him to me. Dante, I say carefully. If he's in federal protection, going after him means... I know what it means. He faces me, and I see the crime boss in full force now. The man who built an empire through calculated violence. But he sent mercenaries to my home. He put you in danger. He crossed every line that matters. So yes, I'm going to find him, and I'm going to eliminate the threat permanently, regardless of what laws I have to break to do it. The certainty in his voice should terrify me. Instead, it triggers a realization I've been avoiding since the library kiss, since watching him care for his wounded men, since feeling the gentleness with which he touches me despite the violence he's capable of inflicting. I'm falling for him. Completely, dangerously, irrevocably falling for Dante Salvatore. And that might be the most dangerous thing that's happened to me yet. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel.